you're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is National World War II Museum President and CEO Stephen Watson. Stephen, have you guys ever considered annexing the Superdome, flooding the field, and staging full-scale reenactments of the Battle of Midway?
Not yet, but that's a great idea. Thank you.
You heard it here first, folks. Tune in this week with Stephen Watson on Let's Talk.
We're local and educated.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams. We'll talk about Saints, LSU, Tulane Pelicans. We'll talk about college baseball, Loyola, LSU Shreveport. Man, we got a full show for you today. Breaking it down for us, again, two of the best we have. Guerry Smith of NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, and also Rene Nadeau of CrescentCitySports.com. Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming down. Always appreciate y'all jumping on board. So such a busy week for sports. Over the next couple of weeks, again, with Saints OTAs beginning this week. Also, again, college baseball in their postseason. NBA, looking at NBA playoffs right now as well. So a lot going on, a lot to talk about. Guerry, tell the folks a little bit about what you got going over at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, and how folks can follow you on social media.
Sure. Right now, the American Athletic Conference baseball tournament is going on. I'm full coverage of that. Going to put up a notebook today. Tulane won their opener. And I'll have full coverage all week long if as long as Tulane survives. We know at least they're going to play 3 games now in the tournament.
Yes. And Rene, CrescentCitySports.com.
Great time of the year, football, OTAs, got NBA going on, drafts coming up really soon, college baseball. A lot of local teams are in it right now. A lot of local teams have a chance to go somewhere, so it's interesting with a lot of people right now, a lot of teams to watch.
Yeah, and of course, it's we are taping this show on a Wednesday instead of our normal Thursday because there's so much going on right now. Again, between OTAs on Thursday, which will be open session for the media. Of course, again, multiple teams that are in postseason play right now, hoping to have a chance to get into the regionals, and of course, NAIA World Series with both LSU Shreveport and Loyola being part of that as well. We'll cover it all today here on the program. Let's start with the New Orleans Saints. As mentioned, OTAs in full effect right now. Again, May 20 to 22nd this week, May 27th next week, and then the 29th through the 30th. June 2nd, and then June 4th through the 5th, and then they'll have the mandatory mini camp, which will be June 10th through the 12th. That's going to be open to the public, but from what I understand, again, those tickets have already been gobbled up by season ticket holders, etc. So again, we'll see how that plays out. But an opportunity for guys for the first time to really kind of see this team again under Kellen Moore, the changes that have been made, again, especially again with a lot of the younger players coming in. Rene, I'll take you first because you will be there tomorrow. What do you look for at OTAs? Again, it's a new regime, new voices, new coaches, new scheme. Some of the players are new, some are not. To me, the first thing I would be looking for is, again, do they have 100% participation, considering new scheme, new coaches, all these players here? A lot of times you don't see some of the veterans skip out and they show up for mandatory minicamp. What do you anticipate happening tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll have a checklist, obviously, and check the numbers, make sure everybody's on board, and we'll ask Kellen Moore if somebody's missing, what the reason is, if it's a good reason or not. I'm going to look for things like Kelvin Banks, where's he line up? He lined up at left tackle, right tackle, and inside guard for rookie minicamp. Obviously watch who's going to play where on the offensive line with the veterans coming in, how the wide receivers. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a guy they signed, a veteran that he looks like he could be a good add-on. But just the new additions and how they play, and the response for the coaches, the reaction and stuff, and how many reps some of these new guys are getting, and kind of gives you an idea about how much the coaches think about them.
Right. I'd like to start with Kelvin Banks. Again, I'm on the record as saying I think that again he walks into the room as the most decorated offensive lineman, Outland Trophy winner, Lombardi. Again, he also got the best lineman in the SEC along with Will Campbell. Why mess with success? The guy's been a left tackle his whole career. Put him at left tackle and leave him there. What are your thoughts?
I think so too, and I've said this on your show. Kelvin Banks, 21 years old. He's a two-time captain. He's a left tackle, and so many people have talked about what do you do with Trevor Penning. And Trevor Penning, remember, he was a left tackle. He got moved to right tackle, and now people have said, do you move him to guard? It's not as easy as people think. And you got a new offensive line coach coming in here, and Kellen Moore, and they got ideas, but you can't keep moving guys around. And I'm not sure, and I'm not as smart as these coaches are, but I'm not sure if Trevor Penning has the quick twitch reflexes to play at guard, because things happen so much quicker. And I've said this, and I could be wrong, but I think at some point they're going to experiment with moving Fuaga to left guard. If you want your best 5 guys, if in fact Penning does perform the way they expect him to, the best 5 would be Banks, Fuaga, McCoy, Caesar, Ruiz, and Penning, if Penning is there. Now, again, it's not going to be as easy to move him to left guard and stuff. If Penning is good at right guard, right tackle, and he's gotten better last year, it'll be the coach's decision to, what it is. But moving Fuaga to left guard might be easier. It might be more of a clean move than it would be moving Penning to left guard.
Rene, my issue with Penning is, again, he seems to have problems with guys that are power rushers. He seems to have got problem with, again, players that are quick. So again, how do you put him on the edge by himself? My thought process is, and I agree with you, it is a different transition from obviously tackle to guard, but at least at guard you're covered up by a McCoy and possibly a Banks that again can help you in terms of blocking. We saw Andres Pete make that transition very pretty easily for him.
It's what that person possesses.
Right.
But I think that Penning, a lot has to do with his problems he had in the early going when he first got here.
Okay.
And a lot of his problems were above the shoulder pads.
So you don't think it's his feet? You think it's above his head?
I think a lot of his problems were above the shoulder pads. And I think you saw some progress made in the back end of last season. I wouldn't say he's an all-pro kind of guy, but I think he improved from the beginning of last season to the end of last season. And with a new coaching staff, how much difference is that going to make? But they're going to know have a pretty good idea right away if they need to get Ray Dunn's in there, the guy they got from Tennessee. But again, I think that Fuaga is going to get some looks at left guard, whether it works out or not.
Well, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think Trevor Penning definitely improved last year, but I don't think they should make any decisions based on Trevor Penning. They make decisions based on the rest of the offensive line and then decide where he fits best in that. I'm still not convinced that he's a quality starter in the NFL.
Nor am I.
He definitely was not a quality starter at the beginning. He definitely played a lot better last year in the second half of the year. But like you said, we're not talking about an all-pro caliber guy. I think he's the guy. He's expendable. He's the guy you fit in based on where everybody else's best spot is. And I agree that I'm not. The early returns on him having to play a third different position, I agree with you that guard makes more sense in terms of being covered up, but he doesn't strike me as a guy who can learn new spots quickly or adjust very well. And they did find position where he's serviceable. So all things being equal, I would keep him there.
New regime in terms of the coaching staff, they are not anchored to Trevor Penning. Now the front office is with Jeff Ireland and Mickey Loomis, because again, they made the deal to go up and get him. I would be interested to see again how this new offensive line coach would view Trevor Penning going into this season.
Yeah, we'll find out, because I'm a skeptic.
Right.
I feel like he mentioned the above the shoulders issues. I don't think those always just completely go away. If you have them at the beginning of your career, they're probably gonna stay around. So again, I think they make decisions on the other guys and then come back to him to do what's best for him.
Can you add anything?
No, I just think that it's going to be, they've already got a pretty good idea of going into this. They're not going to hit the field tomorrow and see what they've looked a lot of film. They looked at what's it done. They have watched. They were out there a couple of days this week before Thursday gets here. So they'll have a pretty good idea as they progress along. But there's so many spots to look at. The quarterback position is another one, that is going to have to be addressed.
And look, to me, it's even more critical this year to have an offensive line that has cohesion and that can, again, protect the quarterback, especially going in with players that, again, don't have the experience that maybe a Derek Carr had as a veteran quarterback. Yes, we know that Rattler has 6 games under his belt as a pro quarterback, but again, all losses. So again, if you can get an offensive line that can give these guys a little bit more time, obviously, again, it's going to help them in their maturation process.
And again, I don't know if you're ready to go here yet, but that's why I would be very surprised, if not shocked, if they don't bring in a veteran quarterback. And Carson Wentz is a guy, $3.3 million last year for Kansas City. He started 1 game for the Chiefs, 1 game for the Rams the previous 2 years, but he started 17 games for the Colts in 2021. He's 32 years old, 22,000 yards. I think overall his record is 47, 46. Not great, but he would be that bridge, and he would be that better experience that would get Shook or Rattler or whatever to the next level. And again, you need somebody to go into the opening game of the season and have somebody like a Rattler or a Shook who has never really taken a significant snap. I know Rattler has, but I'm saying is that you base a lot, you're wondering if this is going to be what's going to happen.
Right. Gary?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. If I were them, that's what I would do.
Well, that was the mistake they made last year, right?
I would bring in a veteran quarterback. I'm not sold on Carson Wentz because from what I've heard, he's not a good team guy, and I don't know if he's the guy that can be the mentor for players down the road. He seemed to rub a lot of people the wrong way, but they need. I think they're headed. You can't have a debacle in your first year because it's your first year and you're learning. But with what they have now at the quarterback position and the rest of the roster, it's rough. I mean, what are the stats? There've only been, I think I just read, there's only been 7 quarterbacks not taken in the first round that started as a rookie in their season opener since in like the last 25 years or something like that. And that's what they may be looking at. We saw Spencer Rattler wasn't always terrible last year, but the bottom line is the bottom line. He didn't win a single game as a starting quarterback. And the receiving core is going to be, I would say, below average compared to most teams in the NFL, even with the additions. So I don't, from what I've heard, I don't think they are going to bring it. I think they're going to settle on these guys and just hope one of them.
To me, that was the biggest mistake they made last year in not having a veteran to come in and back up Derek Carr. And of course, we saw between Hainer and Rattler again, they just weren't unable to be able to get a win. They keep trying to sell us that they have Nussmeier, they have Tolzan, they have Kellen Moore, all 3 ex-NFL quarterbacks that are in that room, and they can relate to those young signal callers. To me, I think you need a veteran there. I think there's a line between a coaching staff and a coach and a player, and that, again, some players may not feel as comfortable as talking to a veteran in the room than they would to be able to talk to a coach. And then again, in the heat of the moment, when again you're on the field, a veteran having an opportunity to sit down with you on that bench and talk to you, rather than a coach that's in the heat of the moment that's trying to be able to coach, I think there's an issue there as well. Here's the other thing: there's not a win in that room. Okay, Jim Derry came on my radio show this week and threw a stat out. Again, Kellen Moore did not win a game as a professional quarterback. Nussmeier has not won a game as a professional quarterback, and neither has Tolzan. And again, and we know that again that Rattle is 0-6. Hainer's 0-1, and Chuck hasn't had a chance to be on the field yet. So there's no NFL wins in that room.
Well, and Guerry said something, and I don't know if Carson Wentz is the guy because you'd have to be a team guy. But the thing is that people bring up Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. Okay, I'm not sure if Shook is either one of those guys. And also, both of those guys had veterans with them last year, okay, as rookies.
Right.
And the thing is that, as we all see here, when a rookie or a quarterback goes to the sidelines, he's talking to other quarterbacks. And if you have a veteran right there with him, it's, you're not going to have a Nussmeier, Tolson or anybody. You're going to have another quarterback kind of sharing things with him. And if you got a veteran there who can, disperse some information and kind of say, I've been through this before and things like that. So that means a lot because that's who they're talking to on the sideline.
I think they're setting themselves up for failure. Okay, I really do. I think they set up themselves up for failure last year with this. I think if they repeat that again, this is going to be the same scenario once again. You're going to be relying on who's going to be the veteran in the room. Hainer?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that they're right now the longest shot on the board to win the Super Bowl out of 32 teams in the NFL. Yeah. With the quarterbacks they have on that roster, never mind the other issues on the roster, it's tough to see success.
All right. We have not mentioned the Derek Carr situation. And this is you guys' first time on this program to kind of give your take on what happened. Rene, I'll take you first. What do you think happened there with, again, Derek Carr? Obviously, again, they talked about the degenerative rotator cuff, that the shoulder injury. What went on behind the scenes that ultimately put him in a situation where there was a give back of $30 million, which still to this day we don't have a clear information on that. He made $205 million in his career as a professional quarterback. I don't care how much money you make. Again, you're not going to make that kind of money again as when you hang up the cleats. So how are you giving back $30 million? Yes, it helped the Saints with their cap situation, but again, what went down behind the scenes that happened there? Well, that said, what's your take on the Derek Carr situation? Why do you think he's no longer the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints?
I don't know this, but just kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit, reading between the lines. I kind of think that Derek Carr knew he wasn't coming back. He didn't want to come back. He didn't feel comfortable here. I don't know how much the Saints gave him opportunity to get a trade, see what he's worth on an open market. I think the injury certainly played a role in this whole thing. I'll say that. But I think he wanted out of here, and I would not be surprised, and I've been wrong before, I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in another NFL team in another year or so.
Right, so sit out the year, get healthy.
And come back and somewhere else, because he's young enough to play somewhere else. Right. And again, I don't know how significant an injury is, but I think he wanted to get out of here, and I think it was pretty well understood between all parties, and I don't think he got any takers, or whatever they offered was not going to be good enough. Right. It might have been a 4th or 5th round pick, if that.
Well, and having to absorb all that dead cap money, it just didn't work for the Saints. This was the best case scenario for the New Orleans Saints. They came out smelling like a rose on this situation in terms of their future cap, because Carr, again, they had been anchored to them, and they were utilizing his money, his base salary as cap space to be able to open up to be able to sign other players. What's your take?
Yeah, I think the whole thing is one of the strangest things I've ever dealt with. Both sides aren't telling the truth, because the Saints wouldn't have made the decisions they made as the process went along if there was clear communication between the two. That just didn't happen clearly. There was misleading going on all along. So let's start there. I mean, I can't think of another quarterback retiring like that. Andrew Luck, he was younger. He retired and stayed retired. I can't think of another example of a guy who still. And also, the last time I was in this chair, I doubted whether Carr was really injured. I don't doubt that anymore. I think that's a legitimate injury. I don't think it's probably a career-ending injury, but this year he was going to have a hard time playing. So
I would agree with that. Probably would have been on IR.
Yes, he would have been on IR.
I'll accept that part. I think I made the comment that if the Steelers somehow traded for him, he'd be magically healthy.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think that would have happened. But I'm always a skeptic when somebody that still has football left in them retires, or even when somebody who doesn't have football left in them retires, because they're usually the last people to know that they're not good. So I'd say a better than 50% chance that we'll see Derek Carr somewhere in the NFL.
And I think the timing of this, when it came out just a few weeks ago, really, not last year. Yeah.
I think the Saints knew, though.
Yeah.
I think they knew all along, and that's why, again, they made the move at 40 to get the quarterback. Shuck, again, I thought there was a lot of talk they might move up to get Jackson Dart. Again, the Giants end up doing that, maybe beating them to the punch. We don't know. Again, they're never going to come out and say we like Dart over Shuck. They're never going to say that one way or the other. But With that said, Rene, and again, it's kind of a tough question because, again, we haven't seen these guys really perform. You've seen a little bit of Hainer. We saw a little bit of Randall last year. You've seen, again, maybe college film on Shuck at this point. Who's the odds-on favorite, in your opinion, to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints?
Well, if it's not a veteran, Shuck, it's something that I watch and at rookie minicamp, and this is rookies now, body language, and Kellen Moore kind of confirmed this. He said getting in and out of plays, dispersing the plays, he was very smooth and act like, I don't know if he said this, paraphrasing maybe, but he kind of acted like a veteran a little bit. He played in a Jeff Brom offense last year, a lot of play action. Best thing could have happened to him, because he's seen everything now. And being in that Jeff Brom offense last year he was a great mentor for Shook at Louisville last year. So I think, to answer your question, I think Shook has maybe come even. Spencer Rattler has some NFL experience, but I think Shook has kind of closed the gap because of his overall ability and what he's done in his career. So it is really not, I wouldn't give Spencer Rattler much of an advantage, even though he has been in NFL games.
Yeah, I saw enough of Spencer Rattler last year for me to say that Shook is the front runner.
Right.
I mean, again, Rattler had some moments where he looked competent, but not enough. And I think a 6-game sample, even with the dysfunction that they had, is a long enough time where you can judge a quarterback a little bit. Jake Hainer, forget about that. He looked terrible last year in the little he's played. He's been around for a couple of years. So I think they're gonna go with Shook. I'm not too optimistic about the results on that, but I think he's the best option that they have right now.
Your thoughts on the draft?
B minus, B plus. I think they fill some gaps. I think they got some, like a Devin Neal, like what's the linebacker from
Danny Stutzman.
I think he can be a player on special teams. I think Quincy Riley is a guy I compared him to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Quincy Riley can be a nickel guy. But Kelvin Banks is a starter from the get-go. Shook is going to be a guy who can play right away. Brofton is a guy that can play anywhere from Texas, and he's a Bo Davis guy. Yeah. He can play nose, or he can play on a 3 or 4 or 5 technique. He can, even though he's 315 pounds. In that 3-4 defense, Brofton can play a lot of different spots. And I think that, again, I mentioned Stutzman, Quentin Riley. Jonas Sanker is a tackling machine from Virginia. He's a safety. I think he can be a good add, not only as a safety. I think he'll earn his spurs as a special teams kind of guy. Yeah. So, and watch, I tell you what, there's a free agent, a punter, Burning, the kid from Bernie from Alabama. He's the second best punter all-time Alabama from Australia. I think a 43.9 average. He's a kid that I've heard from people who would know he's got a great shot.
I mean, the Saints had, I think they were either last or second to last in punting last year again. So obviously there's an upgrade there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I heard you having a debate after the draft where you liked the draft, and whoever you had on your radio show was didn't really like it.
I think it was Jim again, Jim Derry.
I did like it, and look, I'll admit my bias. I cover college football, so I love guys that played great in college football, and sometimes they don't translate well to the NFL. That's a fact. But Danny Stutzman was a stud in college football last year. I've heard people they say they don't think his pass coverage skills are that good. He had an intercept. He made the key interception in Tulane against Darian Mintzel last year to help that win. But I think he can be a very effective player at a position where they need effective player. I agree with him about Jonas Sanker, and I think Kelvin Banks is going to be a 10-year starter in the NFL and a guy that could be a Pro Bowl type player down the road. My initial reaction to a lot of Saints drafts in recent years hasn't been too good, and I'm more positive about this than recent ones.
I just think the fact that they didn't trade up, didn't trade out of a pick, didn't go into next year's draft again to grab picks. They were patient. They allowed the draft to come to them, which was a big plus for them. They needed players. They needed picks. Again, you have to be able to, this roster needs an infusion of young players and an infusion of, again, inexpensive players as well. As again, they start to transition from these veterans. So I like what they did. They may not all pan out, okay? But I think, again, for where the Saints are right now, I think that they tried to address the needs that are there. Now, there are needs still. Big wide receiver, cornerback. We mentioned veteran backup quarterback. Do you concur with those needs? And if you do, are there any other needs in your opinion this team should be looking for in terms of veterans? With about $25 million to spend.
Safety, stuff like that. Defensive end. I think they're going to bring a veteran defensive end in.
Okay.
There's a kid, undrafted free agent, Jaheim Jassim Davis
Yes.
from Wake Forest. He got a $10,000 bonus and $30,000 guarantee, which was good. I mean, kind of shows they thought a lot of him. I'm trying to think of who else. The Powell kid from Rutgers, linebacker, big kid, 6'5", 215. But to answer your question, I think that they're going to kick the tires on some defensive ends, some guys rush ends. Wide receiver for absolute sure.
They need a big wide
They need
receiver.
at least one, if not,
Right.
if not two.
Okay. Cornerback, veteran, or you think they'll go with what they have?
No, I tell you what, you got to bring a cornerback because you lost Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo.
Right.
You need to bring somebody.
You need a veteran backstop more than Yedem.
I mean, because Kool-Aid McKinstry was a rookie last year, and he didn't get a lot of reps, but all of a sudden he's pushed into a more prominent role. So you need somebody, again, much like the quarterback situation, cornerbacks, and if somebody goes down in that secondary room, you got some problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Gary?
to me, wide receivers they need a big wide receiver. It's a huge concern when by far your best wide receiver has a concussion history where you don't know where in the first game he might take another hit, and then you're almost talking retirement deal. When that to me is a concern. Rashid Shaheed has been a big surprise, but now there's more film on him. People know what he does. I mean, he's a speed guy. I don't think he's a number 2 wide receiver. I think he's a number 3 wide receiver. They need help at that position. They need to get lucky. They need to get fortunate with health too.
What about this rumor out there again that the Pittsburgh Steelers have inquired about Olave? Somebody had mentioned again. And again, it's so hard in these days to figure out what's real and again what's just somebody's opinion that they're putting out there as again that they got it from a source. 2nd round pick. My issue is this. Olave, it looks like one concussion away from retirement. Okay. You already, again, picked up his $15 million 5th-year option for next year. Right. He's on the books for $6 million this year. If someone was to come to you with an offer, would you think the Saints would be interested in moving off of him? Or are they kind of tied to him now because there's not a lot of talent in that wide receiver room?
There's not a lot of talent, and let me ask either one of you guys. If the Saints had a chance to add a wide receiver with Chris Olave's history of concussions, would you give up on him? Okay, so I'm saying is that why would you take, and I don't mean this in a negative way, somebody's trash or somebody's problems. So Chris Olave is a guy that, why would the Pittsburgh Steelers or anybody?
Why would the Saints pick up his 5th-year option for $15 million?
Right, and that too. That doesn't make sense. It makes me think of a couple of guys who hit a couple of shots in the barroom and came up with a story and that kind of thing. But I just, Chris Olave is probably going to be, I'd be surprised if he's not, because of his history and the Saints, how much they've invested in him.
Yeah.
And it's so hard for a wide receiver to protect himself from that type of a hit.
Right.
I mean, it's just a huge concern.
And you know what? Smallest wide receivers being exposed over the middle where they're getting hit by linebackers, which again is what happened a lot with the New Orleans Saints over the last few years. Look, if you got Olave and Shaheed going deep or doing deeper routes, I get it, but you surely don't want them going over the middle. And again, I think that's part of the issue there as well. How difficult will it be with the current roster on the defensive side of the ball to make the transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4?
Well, that's going to be, Brandon, that's going to be their decision to make. But you got to, some of these guys are going to be a square peg in a round hole. You got Granderson, you're going to play him an outside linebacker or whatever. Cam Jordan, I know he's trying to hold on to him. He's been a great guy in the locker room. How much is he going to bring to the table? He's not the same Cam Jordan he was at one time. I don't think they have the great, perfect pieces right now with Shepard and they got Gottschall and they brought Gavin Gottschall in here. But I just don't know if they have the right pieces right now to man a 3-4 defense, a quality, high-grade NFL 3-4 defense right now. I don't think they have the pieces.
Do you think they'll do maybe a hybrid of, so maybe some downs we'll see them going up in a 3-4, but maybe 4-3 is their base this year as they make that transition?
Well, Granderson is one of those guys who could be maybe that outside guy in a 3-4. He's skilled enough. He's an edge rusher. And what's the guy? The other guy? I'm drawing a blank.
Yes, the other defensive end. sign him on a 1-year deal. Well, I lost.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but you know who I'm talking about. Okay, very skilled, and I think those guys can be the hybrid kind of guys.
Right.
All right, obviously. Yeah. But I'm not sure if you got the guys up, with Kellen Saunders, and you got Shepard, and you brought Gaucho in. Do you have the pieces that really? Do you have pieces, or you have pieces that can make you a better defense? DeMario Davis, he's long in the tooth now. Do you have to bring a guy like Stutzman in here or something?
Right.
So I don't know if you got all the pieces to be really, really quality, but besides just the defense.
Our director William Hill says Chase Young. Chase Young. I had a senior moment as well. Okay, I'm looking right at the player.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah. I'm looking right at the player. Guys, expectations for the Saints this season, but look, it's so unfair to ask this question because we have not seen them in mini camp, rookie, training camp, etc. But just based on the roster today, Vegas thinks 5.5.
Well, first of all, we don't know how good the conference is going to be. Right. Or the Tampa Bays or the Atlanta Falcons or the Carolina Panthers. You don't know how good they're going to be. Are they going to be injuries that would impede their,
like the Saints had last year?
Exactly right. So teams the Saints are playing, if they had a break and they were playing a Carolina team.
They're a fourth place schedule, so.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that if I had to take a shot, I'd say 6 wins or 7 wins is realistic because I think the coaching staff is good. They'll do the best at what they have. If the Saints do not experience any significant injuries, like an Alvin Kamara kind of deal or something like that, I think that would make a big, and depending on what other teams, their opponents, how healthy they are, would make a big difference.
Well, with the caveat that NFL teams surprise us all the time, a lot of weird results, I'd take the under on that 5.5 because I'm looking at a defense, as he just pointed out, that's making a transition without great personnel, with that personnel not even fitting the defense that well. That's going to take some time. Quarterbacks, no wins on the roster, as you pointed out at quarterback. I think we're giving all the reasons that they're not being on prime time for the first time since 2000, when they did win their first playoff game in franchise history. Yes. But I mean, look, they're only favored in one game out of 17 right now, according by Las Vegas. I think that tells you. Compare that to 5.5 over and under. Which direction I'd go there?
I just go by the history of again, football and. You can remember again coaches talking about this, or even fans doing what we do, right? When you have a rookie or an inexperienced quarterback, okay, and you're trying to line up against veteran teams, that coaches lick their chops.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and again, those quarterbacks will be swimming. So again. It puts you behind the 8 ball from the beginning. And some can say, well, look at Jaden Daniels. Well, okay, there are Jaden Daniels out there. There are other players out there that can immediately come in and make a splash for their team and turn things around. I don't know if that guy is on this roster.
Well, and also I mentioned Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. I'm not sure if the Saints are the same as the Broncos or
in terms of their personnel.
Right,
no
it's
doubt.
not the same team.
No, it's not.
So yeah, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix had a leg up a little bit.
They had been building those teams over years,
and so it's a little different team. So you cannot expect a Shook or anybody to lift this team to the level like they went last year because the team surrounding Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels much different.
Archie Manning just made 76 years old this week, right? And when I look at this team now, it reminds me more of, again, the Archie Manning Saints.
Yeah.
Okay, where, again, Archie's coming out of Ole Miss. There's some, it's not a lot, the team is not very good or, et cetera. So I think that Saints fans have to understand, even though the team is not saying that they are in a rebuilding mode, it's pretty obvious they're in a rebuilding mode at this point. When you're starting a rookie quarterback, you're in a rebuilding mode.
Yeah. Look, we've already explained why it's actually good for the Saints moving forward that Derek Carr isn't around. Right. But the second that happened, that blew away any chance. There's a guy that did go one game over 500 despite his issues the last 2 years. And I really do. I really think they desperately need to bring in a veteran quarterback. Your point. I just don't think they're going to do it from what I've heard. But I think they could really, really, really have a rough year with what they have right now.
I think it was a mistake last year, and I think doubling down on that mistake would be actually would be stupid, in my opinion. Okay, because again, if anything, just the institutional knowledge of having a veteran quarterback in that room means something.
somebody that's ever won a game too.
Right.
Somebody. It's hard to lead when nobody knows whether whether you're any good or not. And just bring
guys, I was shocked by that statistic.
And what could you do to the psyche or the mentality of a shook if you put him out there and he gets rattled? I mean, really, that would set him back in his progress.
Right, there's no doubt.
So you're saying shook could get rattled and rattler could get shook.
Wow. A whole lot of shaking going on over there. With that, we're going to take a break here from our underwriters, Rene, Nadeau, ChristySports.com, and Guerry Smith at NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. I'm Eric Asher. Stay tuned. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Rene, Nadeau, and Guerry Smith are our guests. We're still trying to get over that shook and straddled, and yeah, we got it. Let's talk some Pels. All right, first of all, the first question on the Pelicans is the future of Zion Williamson in New Orleans. Mark Stein came out this week, said his sources say that Joe Dumars wants to be able to have an opportunity to work with Zion Williamson, is not willing to move off of Zion Williamson as of yet. We saw him again represent the team on the podium for the draft lottery. A lot of people thought that was maybe a clue of which direction they're going. Look, I'm on the record as saying he has never, at this point, I don't think since he left Duke, that his stock has been higher based on what he did last year with 30 games, where again, really almost again was playing at an all-NBA level at times. Okay, with that said, the weight is down. The contract is set up now, where again it favors the team and not the player. Because it's no longer guaranteed because he did not play enough games last year. So again, that voided any guarantees within the contract. So I have even kind of, even though again, I would strike while the iron's hot, okay, when you have some worth, I can understand Joe Dumars, if that is an accurate report, wanting to have an opportunity to see if he can get the professionalism out of Zion Williamson and maybe reach his potential. Your thoughts?
I think that Joe Dumars, first thing he did is said, this is our expectations,
right,
and put it up on a chart, on a board. And I think some of the things that Zion has to address is his personal life, things off the field, his overall maturity and things like that, which included his weight, his habits, and things like that. But being late, from what we've heard, missing planes or being late for practices or games or whatever. All right, that's all true. I think Joe Dumars is going to say, this is our expectations and this is what we expect you to do. And if for some reason he can't abide by those rules, and I think Joe Dumars will get an early idea in training camp and all, pretty much this is where we're going with this. He's not going to wait till the season gets here. He'll know in preseason and workouts and things like that. So to answer your question, I don't blame him because that's a lot of talent that you don't want to let go that would benefit somebody else. But it's either time, this year, it's either time to either work things out or cut bait.
It's such a tough decision. Like I'm on the anti-Zion camp. Like I think I've seen enough. There's too many issues. The weight, the personality, the work ethic. I think we've seen enough that it's time to move on. But man, is it so intoxicating when he plays well.
Right. No, it is.
In a stretch, and there's that fear that you send him somewhere else, and then he matures, and then he's dominating. But my thing all along has been, his body is not made for the game that he has. I just don't think you can stay healthy when you're that athletic with that, whether you lose weight or not. Forget all the mental things. he's an injury waiting to happen, and I don't. That's why I would move on. But man, those are career-defining decisions when you're making those decisions.
You don't want to be the GM.
It certainly could be. It could backfire on you too.
Yeah.
But we've seen. Yeah. And again, they've had so many injuries. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can see why they could sit there and say if they could just get everybody healthy, which they won't be at the beginning of next year, regardless.
Right. Murray's not coming back till January. Murphy might not start the season.
That they could make it work, but I think you're going to get your heart broken eventually with Zion.
And I think they've removed some safety nets that Zion had in the organization. Joe Dumars did not retain.
Right, like swing cash.
Yes.
Okay. Others, yes. No, I would agree. I think they have. And I think, again, they hold all the cards now. I mean, again, when you don't have a guaranteed contract, they hold all the cards. Now, again, somebody's always going to take a flyer on a Zion Williamson because of the talent. The question is, again, if you were to make a trade, what would you get back in return? And I get it. Joe, I'm not going to criticize Joe Dumars. I understand he's got to take his shot. Okay. But I will say this, and look, I've asked everyone this question that's come on the radio show or this show about, again, the way this team is constructed as of today. This is what Joe Dumars said in his opening press conference, what he's looking for. His vision for the team. Discipline, tough-minded, accountability, while setting unwavering standards for the organization. Those are his words, not mine. When you look at this roster as it is built today, does that reflect the roster? In my opinion, it does not.
No, it does not. Well, I tell you what, you could throw Herb Jones in there, C.J. McCollum.
There's a couple that don't.
Right. There's, those, but they're few and far between.
Right.
So, I don't think he's going to knock this down and build a whole new roster, but you're going to see some familiar faces that may not. At least I think there would be a possibility of some players being moved.
Well, I mean, again, Brandon Ingram said on his way out to Toronto, right? Talked about, again, the lack of accountability.
Yes.
Again, so again, that's a player taking a shot at an organization or players on that team.
Right.
We see the immaturity at times from these players. Now, some of these players are young. We saw the adult in the room in Larry Nance move on to Atlanta. Najee Marshall, you want to talk about tough-minded? Najee Marshall and Dyson Daniel. Dyson Daniel to Atlanta, Najee Marshall to Dallas. Again, that took a lot of the toughness away from this team as well. So I'm going to be interested to see what Dumars does to be able to transition this team. Does he want to build this team in the same vein that we saw what he did in Detroit, where again it was a lot of guys that weren't stars, but they were just tough and they played hard basketball? Or do you want to go back to the bad boys days, even though again it's a different NBA now in terms of, again, physicality and in terms of the type of player that they had? I'm interested to see what type of team he's going to build here in New Orleans.
Well, I don't think there's anybody in the NBA would match those bad boys, those alley fighters that he had.
Well, you can't touch anybody like that until the playoffs anyway.
It can't. But I mean, again, they don't have a lot of guys. McCollum's, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy's a guy that you really going to have to keep. Messi, what a splash he made.
Yes, agreed.
C.J. McCollum. Only thing is C.J. McCollum with his age, would he be a piece that could benefit somebody who is maybe on the cusp of making a big jump in the NBA?
Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, no, not much.
Okay.
I see. They were soft this last. I mean, like I said, they did not have tough. Look, they had a lot that went against them, but those 50-point losses, those 40-point losses, those nail it in right, left, and center. That was an example of a team that does not have a culture of effort, basically, and so they got to change that.
So how does Willie Green do that? I mean, how does Willie Green on a one-year deal as a lame duck coach do that? Even though, again, the organization obviously loves him, Mrs. Benson, everybody loves him within the organization. It's the same team for the most part, new general manager with a new vision. How does that work?
I think Willie Green, and this is my thoughts, I think Willie Green, if everybody's healthy, has 20, 25 games to prove he can be a coach here this year. Because if things are going south, I can see him making a move after 20 games.
My guess is Borrego is gone. So there'll be another top assistant here. So we'll see how that goes. Pelicans had the 7th overall pick in the draft, and I just want to bring up some names that were the 7th overall pick. I know I brought up a couple last week when we had it up for these guys that are here. It is not a death sentence. The 7th overall pick is not a death sentence for this team. You would love to have Cooper Flagg. You'd love to be in the top 3, but again, 2024. I'll take it from 15 up. Jamal Murray in 2016, 7th overall pick. Laurie Markin in 2017, 7th round pick. Wendell Carter Jr., 2018, 7th overall pick, pardon me. Kobe White, 7th overall pick in 2019. Jonathan Kuminga, 2021, 7th overall pick. Shaden Sharp, 2022, 7th overall pick. Donovan Klingman last year, 7th overall pick. These are all players that played and that are on teams and getting playing time. Some of those guys are significant players on their teams as well. So again, the 7th overall pick is not a death sentence for the Pelicans.
Steph Curry was a 7th round pick. Julius Randle was a 7th round pick. John Havlicek
there you go.
was a 7th round pick. But Rich Kelly was a 7th round pick.
7th overall
The Jazz. So anyway, it's a downside. But we talked about some names before the show, and Marlo watched the kid from Duke. He went to Duke because of Zion. He had that much respect for Zion.
Right.
But you got him, and you got
the Queen. You got Queen from
Derek Queen from Maryland.
Right.
You got what's the guy's name? Callow C was from Illinois. Is a great shooter, 6'6" guy.
Yakachunas, the guard there. Right?
Yeah.
Fears from Oklahoma.
Fears Oklahoma. He scored 30 points, first guy since Trae Young to do that at Oklahoma. So you got some options there.
Right.
And I think that Knippel is a guy too would be a great fit.
I love Knippel.
I do too.
Now the question to him is athleticism. Will it translate to the NBA?
Yeah.
And that's what the question is right now.
And that's
right?
the key with these. Like you said, you can get a difference maker at this position. You've got to make the right pick because you can also get a non-difference maker.
Yes.
Like I've read this for years. I don't know. He shot less than 30% on threes at Oklahoma. I'm watching the modern NBA. I'm not sure how that plays. Although if OKC wins the championship, they're one of the only teams that does not live and die by the three-point shot.
Right.
I'm actually pulling for them to win just because I don't like the way the NBA has shifted, where you've got a Boston Celtics team that's unbelievably talented but chooses to shoot 55 threes a game. But they've got to make. There's such a huge difference by what you can get at the number 7 pick, and they've got to make the right choice.
I would agree. And again, if there's any hope for small market teams, we're seeing it now in the NBA. Because in the conference finals, you have 3 small market teams and 1 large market team that is made. Now, Minnesota is over the luxury tax. The Knicks are over the luxury tax. Again, but Indiana and Oklahoma City are not.
Right.
Okay, and there's a good chance those 2 teams may be in the finals.
Could be.
And it really is kind of a litmus test on again the new cap and the new luxury tax threshold, and again how tough that is on teams to be able to again traverse that, even large market teams now who again have more money than the small market teams. So we'll see again if how punitive that is going forward, if that will put us in a situation where a team like the Pelicans doesn't have to go over the luxury tax threshold to have a chance to win a championship.
And Ms. Benson does not want to go over the luxury tax.
No, well, why would you? And when the NBA is cutting you a check every year, why would you want to turn that check down? Especially in a small market where, again, you're going to have to start looking at the opportunity down the line here to either renovate or build a new arena. All that has to come down the pike here, and of course, with the lack of corporate support and Fortune 500 companies that we have in this city, that again, selling those seats, selling those expensive seats are going to be difficult.
Yeah, look, baseball is the one sport where it's incredibly hard to win in a small market.
Right.
The NBA, Oklahoma City is showing if you make the right decisions, you can absolutely get it done.
Look at
and
it.
So that one, I hate it when that's used as an
Right.
excuse, because it's just not like in baseball where you've got one team with a payroll that's where one player is making more than the entire payroll.
I mean, there was some games last
franchise.
year. Some games with the Pelicans last year. I mean, they had people in the stands, but there were times when they would let everybody in free and charge them to get out, or something like that.
Well, again, you were getting $5 tickets on the secondary market. So no, look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But remember, talk about Oklahoma City for a minute. That's a franchise that's drafted incredibly well. But the problem with them is when they get to the second contract with their players, in a lot of cases, being a small market, not being able to compete, they end up having to trade those players away. Think about the players that have gone through the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, again, some some top players in the NBA. So we'll see. Hopefully Joe Dumars can make a real big difference on this team, but they're going to have to make some additions as well. All right. Got about 10 minutes left in the program. Got to get to college baseball, and I'd like to start with Tulane if we could. Again, as of the recording of this program on a Wednesday, again, we have no idea what will be happening on Thursday when Tulane plays, but we do know what happened in the first game of the American Athletic Conference Championship, American Athletic Conference tournament. Tell us about the Greenies.
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to give Jay Ullman credit. Fans get upset because they remember the glory days of Tulane baseball when they were a legitimate national contender. It's harder to win in baseball at Tulane than any other of the major sports because the scholarships aren't full, and you're talking about a $48,000 a semester about tuition, and so they're having to recruit guys from wealthy upbringings a lot of times to play for them. So that's just the recruiting pool for them is not the same as other teams. And 2 years in a row, he's gone to the American Athletic Conference tournament and won it as an underdog. 2 years ago as the most incredible underdog in the history of sports almost, when they were 15-38. Right. But last year they finished third in the league and they did it. So this year they've had bad pitching. That's a reality. So he thought out of the box and he put his closer in as a starter in game one, Michael Lombardi. And he was awesome. He went 7 innings, struck out 11, gave up 2 hits in the second inning, no more the rest of the way. I'm telling you, if they'd have used every other team in the first round used their Friday starter in that game, 7 of the 8. Tulane, if they'd have used their Friday starter, they would have lost that game. Now they're going to have their Friday starter and their other pitchers going against not other teams' aces going forward. That move alone shows why Jay Ullman deserves. People act like it's just luck that they've won the tournament 2 years in a row. He's made all of the right decisions. I don't know whether they have enough pitching depth to get it done this year, but they had to win the first game to give them a chance. And the only guy that could have done it was Michael Lombardi, and they made that move, and he was absolutely brilliant. It was another good decision by Jay Ullman.
So Texas San Antonio in the second round in the winners bracket of the tournament. They're a juggernaut.
They scored 24 runs in 3 innings against Tulane in a game earlier this year. Now, the side note is Tulane beat them one of the 3 games there, and Texas San Antonio only lost 2 home games all year long. So Tulane, and they're going to have and so they have a shot. That's going to be, though, in the 3-year run that Tulane's had, giving Texas San Antonio 2 losses in their side of the bracket is going to be the toughest thing that he's had to do, because that's a team. They're 42-11. East Carolina is the marquee program in that league. If East Carolina had gone 42-11 and had they'd be like in the top 10 in the country right now, and people would be talking about them as a possible super regional host. Texas San Antonio would even ranked in one of the major rankings because people aren't used to them being that good, but they're a juggernaut.
That's a noon first pitch on Thursday, so by the time you guys see this show at 6 p.m. on Thursday night, that obviously the results will have happened. Hopefully Tulane wins that game and gets a chance to stay in the winners bracket.
You know, Tulane, interesting, he knows this better than me, but they're third in the AAC, and with batting average 282, got 123 doubles, leads the conference. And they also third in the conference with throwing 513 Ks, but they got a 6.62 ERA. It's crazy. I mean, you know, third in strikeouts, but the ERA is off the charts. So it's but Lombardi is a special player.
He's the best. I moved back to New Orleans in 2010 to started covering Tulane, and he's the absolute best pitcher they've had. I mean, he has a real shot to be a Major League Baseball player.
All right, let's keep going here. Okay, the Privateers of UNO. Again, they will face Houston Christian in a best-of-3 series starting again on Thursday, 6 p.m., Friday 6 p.m., Saturday if necessary 6 p.m. Plug for the radio station. You can listen to it on 106.7 The Ticket. They swept Houston Christian. Do you think they got a chance to be able to win this and get into a regional? I think it's 50-50.
Look, and I'll give myself credit. When I came on your show last week, I said that was a good matchup for them against Southeastern Louisiana. I think that helped them a lot. Southeastern staying in Louisiana instead of having to go to a Texas in their bracket. They had played Southeastern well. They had beaten Southeastern's ace convincingly when they played at UNO earlier this year. I've always felt this year UNO had better personnel. Look, they had the coaching change right before the season in a league, and they knew that the only way they can get to the NCAA tournament is to win the tournament. They can rake. They've got a really good lineup. They're similar to Tulane. They can rake better than Tulane. Their pitching is the concern. They just don't have good pitching, but they came through in that. And Houston Christian, I don't know how much it matters. Houston Christian also, they beat the top team in the league twice up there and back-to-back, and they've been swept by that team a couple of weeks ago too.
Right.
So I don't know if UNO sweeping them makes a difference, but Houston Christian's not loaded, UNO's not loaded, and it's just such a huge opportunity. I'd say it's about 50-50 for them to win that.
I mean, from Blake Dean walking away from baseball to again, Dak Norris coming in and taking over. It's an amazing run for the Friday team.
He's got maybe the best one of the best two-way players in the country, and Bryce Callaway, 6'5", 240. He's leading the conference with a .390 batting average, 62 RBIs, 18 home runs, and he's got 11 saves on the mound.
Closes,
Bryce Callaway, he's their team. I mean, he carries that team. But 28-24 record, they haven't knocked anybody over. But
they play when the
game's on the line. Play at the right time.
Did Southeastern do enough to get in?
They're not going to. Okay, here's why they might get in.
Right.
Their AD, J.R. Teagues, is the head of the selection committee. But historically, from that league, what they did in getting knocked out early in their conference tournament, that's not enough to get in that large bid.
All right, I'm going to get to LSU. Hope we have enough time, but we got to talk about Loyola, and we got to talk about LSU Shreveport. LSU Shreveport, 54-0, Red River Athletic Conference champions. They're the #1 seed. They'll take on 10th seeded Grandview at 11:30 on Friday. Loyola, 41-16, Southern States Athletic Conference champion. They're the 8th seed. They got Tennessee Wesleyan at 3 p.m. on Friday. Let's talk about this one right here. I mean, again, LSU Shreveport's been a juggernaut, and Loyola, they're on the other side of the bracket, so maybe there might be an All-Louisiana championship. But this is fantastic up in Lewiston, Idaho, with again the NAIA College World Series.
You just said it 54-0. I actually didn't realize they were undefeated. That's unheard. I've never heard of that.
No, that's crazy.
In my life in college baseball ever. I like their chances.
Yeah, me too.
Brad Neffendorf is a coach there, and he's done a great job. And Jeremy Kennedy is in his 6th season. He came from Dallas Baptist, which is a good program. But he's got a couple local guys, Garrick Felix. 402 batting average from Acadiana, and Brandon Mooney out of Mandeville got a 378 batting average. So he's got some good hitting. He's got good pitching. And Loyola is another team with 41 wins. I mean, they're playing well at the right time. And Jeremy Kennedy's done a great job as coach there.
Yeah. Good luck to both those Louisiana teams. All right, LSU got the double bye. It'll be either Texas A&M, Mississippi State, or Auburn. Texas A&M, Mississippi State play, and then they got to play Auburn to get to LSU. 3rd seed. First of all, are they a top 8 seed?
I think that they're going to be now. Their RPI and I follow this closely. The NCAA committee usually slavishly follows the RPI. All these other people are using common sense factors like how did you do in your league, who did you beat, and then a lot of times it's just the straight number by your name. And they're only 8 right now, so that's borderline. But I think they've done enough. I think they will.
I mean, consensus
they will
number
get
one
there.
in the
It's been a weird year. There's no great team in college baseball this year. Like LSU, they don't score a lot. I think. Their first 5 games in the league, they scored more than 5 runs. Since then, they've only scored more than 5 runs in a game like 8 times in 24 games. They're going to play a lot of close games. They've got a really good pitching staff. They're going to have to get to Omaha this year, whether they're host or not, they're going to have to win close games. Their history, if they're playing at home, I like their chances to do that. And if they're not, I don't like their chances.
Only 54 home runs. But Cade Anderson from St. Paul's, 133 strikeouts.
Amazing.
He trails Anthony Renato, who's second all-time at LSU, by 26 strikeouts, and Anthony Renato has 41 more innings pitched. So Cade Anderson is unbelievable. He's nails, and they got a good. I mean, Ineson has done a great job. I mean, 121 Ks. Kason Evans is 6 saves. He's a freshman. They do have a good pitching staff, but not a lot of home runs. But they have timely hits. They've come at the right time.
They've been clutch all year long.
and that's what saves them in a lot of games.
Top 8 seed.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that greases the skids there. If you can get a regional and a super regional in Baton Rouge, that's usually the path to Omaha.
Yeah.
So 7 batters over 300. I mean,
history says when they're a host for both, they make it to Omaha, and when they're not, they don't.
Right, they don't. So again, we'll see how that plays out. And look, it's so much better for Louisiana in June when we have these teams playing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, it's just, College World Series, we're so spoiled by Tulane, UNO, and LSU for so many years. Okay, so let's hope we get back there. Rene, Nadeau, Guerry Smith, thanks so much for being with here on the program today. We very much appreciate your time. Great job. Fantastic.
Always good to be here.
All right, thanks so much for tuning in. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that'll take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube channel and also to my website, ericasher.com. You can catch catch us again on Pelican Sports Television, WLAE-TV 2, WLAE-TV, again, the YouTube channel, and of course, we post all of our shows on our social media platforms as well. Catch me on the radio 4 to 6 weekdays, 106.7 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. The Ticket also has an app, 106.7 The Ticket app. You can listen there. On the website at 106.7 The Ticket. You can listen there as well. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, other digital platforms. You can take the show with you everywhere. And of course, our podcast is everywhere as well. We're on all major podcasting platforms. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher, and you'll find that pretty easily. Want to thank again our underwriters who make our show possible. We appreciate each and every one of those underwriters. Please support our underwriters. And of course, the production staff here at WLAE do a great job producing our program each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Maggie Ellis, Thomas Healy, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Gary Smith and Rene, Nadeau, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Memorial Day. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is National World War II Museum President and CEO Stephen Watson. Stephen, have you guys ever considered annexing the Superdome, flooding the field, and staging full-scale reenactments of the Battle of Midway?
Not yet, but that's a great idea. Thank you.
You heard it here first, folks. Tune in this week with Stephen Watson on Let's Talk.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV.